Greetings, Skyborn, and welcome back to Active Player Network. I am Richmond, and today I am going to tell you even more about Overlight, the new RPG setting from Renegade Game Studios. We are going to walk through the core mechanism that drives the action and the narrative of Overlight forward. This is the third of our 3 Overlight videos. The first one highlighted the cosmology of the world of Overlight. The second one took you through the character creation process, and you can find both of those linked right down there below this video, so you can check them out. Overlight uses a small set of rules to govern the various challenges and tasks that your characters may be asked to perform throughout their adventures. Variations on this core dice rolling systems cover every action from fighting to negotiating, intimidating, and even, yes, channeling your CHROMA abilities. We call these dice rolls tests, and there are 4 primary types. We have combat tests, open tests, skill tests, and CHROMA tests. And at their core, each one of these test types functions the same exact way, with only a few minor variations. The GM is the final arbiter on where and when one of these tests might be performed by a particular character, but generally speaking, these are performed for actions that contain some measure or element of risk or uncertainty that might have otherwise potential dramatic effects on the story and your character's part in it. Tests are always performed by rolling a specific set of dice dictated by your virtue and or skill ratings. Plus, you'll be adding in a very special 4-sided spirit dice. Once you roll the dice, you're looking for as many successes as possible, defined by rolling a 6 or higher. Once again, for details on how you determine those virtue and skill ratings, you can watch our character creation video, which is linked below and will take you through the entire process from start to finish. Now wait, your 4-sided die, your spirit die, will, of course, sadly never roll a 6 or higher, but that's okay. It serves a completely different function depending on what type of test you're attempting to perform. We'll get into that a little bit later. Now let's look at a sample skill test. This is Vey, my Zenith Order monk, and let's say that she needs to persuade an angry prison guard to release her Aramel companion from the largest jail on Hark. First, let's have a look at Vey's persuasion rating. As you can see, I gave her a D8 in persuasion, which means that I get to add 3 8-sided dice to my test. Now, if your character is untrained in the particular skill that they're being asked to roll, unfortunately, you'll only get to add a single D6, whereas if you're trained, you'll always be able to add the 3 based on your rating. So let's take one last look at Vey's character sheet. You can see that the persuasion skill is actually linked to the virtue of will. This happens to be Vey's core virtue, and she has a D12 rating in it, so I'm going to get to add in 3 more 12-sided dice to my roll. And lastly, we'll add in our 4-sided spirit die. Let's roll and see what happens. Now, in assessing the results of your roll, remember that any die that rolled a 6 or higher counts as a success, and you'll have 4 possible outcomes. For 0 to 1 successes, unfortunately, that's a failure. Better luck next time. For 2 to 3 successes, we call this a luminous success. And what this means is that you succeeded with a little bit of flourish. And in both of these first 2 scenarios, your GM gets to describe the outcome of this test. For 4 to 5 successes, we call this a radiant success, which means you succeeded competently and easily, and in this case, the GM is going to work with the player in order to describe the result of the test. And last, the incredibly rare 6 success skill test. This is what we call a brilliant success. You succeed with expert skill, speed, and panache, and with a brilliant success, you as the player get to be the driving force in describing the outcome of your test. So, in the case of my Zenith Order monk Vey, she rolled a radiant success. Yeah, I rolled 5 results higher than 6. I'm kind of a big deal. But more importantly, my RML companion is out of jail. But Anne, you might be asking yourself, hold up, we didn't discuss that Whittle 4-sided spirit die. Well, let's get into it, shall we? As I mentioned before, the impact of your spirit die will vary depending on what type of test you're performing, and we're going to go ahead and start with skill tests. In a skill test, only a result of 4 will matter. Rolling a 4 on your spirit die during a skill test will allow you to do different things, whether you rolled an odd number of successes or an even number. For an odd number, you'll be able to bump up the number of successes by 1, making a 2 a 3, a 4 a 5, a 5 a 6, and so on. And this is called a spirit flare. Or, of course, if you initially rolled an even number of successes, that means that you will be able to add 1 point to your spirit pool. So, what happens if you roll a 4 on your spirit die, but you've already performed the insane feat of 6 natural successes in your dice pool already? We call that a legendary success, and this should absolutely be a character-defining moment in your story. It's an act of heroism of mythic proportions. It should absolutely have an over-the-top outcome. For combat tests during which you're attempting to inflict damage to an enemy, the spirit die can actually award you with points to your fury pool. For open tests, pitting your character's abilities directly against those of another character, you're going to be looking for the single highest roll instead of the usual number of successes, and the spirit die can actually add 1 to your roll. Now, CHROMA tests are the most unique type of test that you can perform in Overlight. You first have to have at least 1 point in your spirit pool before you can even attempt one. You'll roll your 7 dice, 3 for each associated virtue in the CHROMA's description, and of course, that spirit die. If you roll an odd number of successes, you can spend 1 spirit pool point to bump the number of successes up by 1 with a spirit flare. Now, the spirit die's role during a CHROMA test is to tell you how many spirit pool points are consumed by channeling that CHROMA ability, whether you succeed or fail. If the number of spirit points that you have to spend in order to perform a CHROMA test exceeds what's left in your spirit pool, your character experiences a shatter. Shatters can have permanent side effects on your physical being or mental wholeness, and eventually, if your character experiences too many shatters, they'll actually completely lose the ability to channel that CHROMA at all. And on that uplifting note, we come to the end of our 3-part Overlight series on Active Player Network. Thank you so much for joining us to learn more about Overlight from Renegade Game Studios. We hope that you are out there getting ready for your Skyborn to go on incredible kaleidoscopic adventures. You'll always be able to find me right here on Active Player Network, talking tabletop, so please like this video, subscribe to us on youtube.com/activeplayernetwork. You can find us on Facebook for lots of awesome giveaways and announcements at facebook.com/activeplayernetwork. You can find us on Instagram at activeplayernetwork, on Twitter at activeplayernet, and on our website at activeplayernetwork.com. Tell me in the comments if there's another game you'd like to see me deep dive into next, but for now, I'm off on another thrilling adventure.